National Anthem followed by Tamil Nadu.
நீராரும் கடலொடுத்த நிலமடந்து கெழிலொழுகும் சீராரும் வதனமென திகழ் பரத கண்டமிதில் தெக்கனமும் அதிசிறந்த திராவிடனல் திருநாடும் தர்க்க சிறு பிறை நுதலும் தரித்தனரும் திலகமுமே அத்திலக வாசனை போல் அனைத்துலகும் இன்பமுற எத்திசையும் புகழ் மணக்க இருந்த பெரும் தமிழனங்கே தமிழனங்கே உன் சீரிலமை திரும்பி அந்த செயல் மறந்து வாழ்த்ததுமே வாழ்த்ததுமே வாழ்த்ததுமே.
We request all our dignitaries to kindly take your respective seats. Let us now listen to the patriotic rendition written by Mahakavi Subramanya Bharatiyar, Parukulle Nalla Nadu Nam Bharata Nadu.
Parukulle Nalla Nadu, Parukulle Nalla Nadu, Engal பாரத நாடு இந்த பாருக்குள்ளே நல்ல நாடு ஞானத்திலே பரமோனத்திலே ஞானத்திலே பரமோனத்திலே உயர் மனத்திலே அன்னதானத்திலே ஞானத்திலே பரமோனத்திலே மானத்திலே அன்னதானத்திலே கானத்திலே அமுதாக நிறைந்த கவிதையிலே உயர்நாடு கானத்திலே அமுதாக நிறைந்த கவிதையிலே உயர்நாடு இந்த பாருக்குள்ளே நல்ல நாடு தீரத்திலே படை வீரத்திலே தீரத்திலே படை வீரத்திலே நெஞ்சில் ஈரத்திலே உபகாரத்திலே தீரத்திலே படை வீரத்திலே நெஞ்சில் ஈரத்திலே உபகாரத்திலே சாரத்திலே மிக சாஸ்திரம் கண்டு தருவதிலே உயர்நாடு சாரத்திலே மிக சாஸ்திரம் கண்டு தருவதிலே உயர்நாடு இந்த பாருக்குள்ளே நல்ல நாடு பாருக்குள்ளே நல்ல நாடு.
Thank you. We now humbly request the Honorable Governor Chancellor to light the traditional lamp, the Kuttuvilakku. We welcome Professor M. Jagdish Kumar, our Chief Guest, Chairman of the University Grants Commission, to light the Kuttuvilakku. We welcome Dr. Selvam, Vice-Chancellor of Bharathidasan University. We welcome Dr. V. Geeta Lakshmi, Vice-Chancellor of Tamil Nadu Agricultural University. We welcome Secretary to the Honorable Governor to light the traditional lamp, the Kuttuvilakku. Thank you, sir. We now request the Secretary to the Honorable Governor to deliver the welcome address.
Good morning, everybody. It is with great pleasure and honor that I extend a warm welcome to our Honorable Governor. Our Honorable Governor takes keen interest in the advancement of education, innovation, and excellence in academia. He wanted this conference to be a platform for us to explore emerging trends, exchange ideas, share best practices, and collaborate on strategies to address the challenges facing our universities, and has guided us. Sir has readily accepted our invitation to be the chief guest, and we are very happy to have a renowned academician and education administrator as our chief guest today. I extend a hearty welcome to all our guest speakers, Professor Partha P. Chakrabarti, Ms. Shruti Kannan, and Professor H.D. Charan, who have accepted our invitation and have come here to share their experiences. I extend a hearty welcome to all the Vice-Chancellors of state universities, private universities, Central University, directors and administrators of state universities and central institutions. I extend a hearty welcome to all officials and staff of Raj Bhavan and Udagamandalam District Administration. I also extend a warm welcome to our press and media personnel. Nandri, vanakkam.
Thank you, sir. We now humbly request the Honorable Governor Chancellor to felicitate our chief guest, Professor M. Jagdish Kumar, Chairman of University Grants Commission. Thank you, sir. We now humbly request our Honorable Governor to felicitate the guest speakers. The Honorable Governor will now felicitate Professor Partha P. Chakrabarti, former Director, IIT Kharagpur. Thank you, sir. The Honorable Governor will now felicitate Ms. Shruti Kannan, Engineering Leader, Cisco. Thank you, sir. The Honorable Governor will now felicitate Professor H.D. Charan, Chairman, National Committee on Universal Human Values, AICTE. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. We now request the Deputy Secretary Universities, Thiruprasanna Ramasamy, to introduce our chief guest, Professor M. Jagdish Kumar, Chairman of the University Grants Commission.
Good morning, Honorable Governor, Chancellor, and dignitaries. Our chief guest of the conference, Professor M. Jagdish Kumar, is the Chairman of the University Grants Commission and was the 12th Vice-Chancellor of Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. He has obtained his degrees from Indian Institute of Technology, Madras, and did his postdoctoral research at University of Waterloo, Canada. He is the professor in Department of Electrical Engineering at IIT Delhi. He held the NXP Philips Chair Professor established at IIT Delhi by Philips Semiconductors, Netherlands. He received a 2013 Award for Excellence in Teaching in Large Class category from IIT Delhi. He works in the area of nano-electronic devices, nanoscale device modeling and simulation, innovative device design, and power semiconductor devices. He has published more than 250 publications in referred journals and conferences. He is on the editorial board of several international journals, including the IEEE Journal of Electronic Devices Society, and is the editor-in-chief of IETE Technical Review. He was an editor of IEEE Transactions on Electron Devices for 9 years. He is a fellow of Indian National Academy of Engineering, the National Academy of Sciences India, and the Institution of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineers India. He has been awarded 29th IETE Ramlal Wadhwa Gold Medal for distinguished contribution to the semiconductor device design and modeling field. He also received first ever ISA VSI Techno Mentor Award from India Electronics and Semiconductor Association, which recognized a distinguished Indian academician and a researcher for playing a significant role as a mentor and a researcher. He is a recipient of 2008 IBM Faculty Award for Professional Achievements. He is the President of General Council of National Assessment and Accreditation Council, NAC. He was the member of University Grants Commission and a member of Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, TRAI. He was the chairman of governing body of the National Council of Science Museums, Ministry of Culture, Government of India. I am delighted to welcome you, sir, to deliver the special address.
Honorable Governor Chancellor Shri Ravi ji, my distinguished colleagues in the audience, my pranams to all of you. I thank the Honorable Governor for giving me a second chance to be with you here in this 2 days conference. When some of the great minds of Indian higher education have come together to deliberate on higher education, it got to be an important event. When you are discussing about how we will transform the higher education in India, we will discuss about many things that we have been doing during last few years after the launch of the NEP 2020. However, when we want to transform our higher education, what is that we want to achieve? Is it that we want to produce high quality research in our institutions? Is it that we want to make our students more innovative and creative? Is it that you want to get into top world university rankings? Is it that through all these efforts we want to make India a leading nation in the world? While all these things are important, we also have to look at the bigger picture. What is the context in which some of the great minds of Indian higher education have gathered here today to critically think for 2 days? What I want to do is, in the given time, I would like to draw a broader picture, and then I will try to find out the context in which we are trying to reform our higher education. And some of the ideas that I am going to present before you have been deliberated by researchers, policy makers, have been reported extensively. I will try to provide a brief summary of these ideas to imagine that bigger picture and then find a context for ourselves in this bigger picture. Go back to October 2011. In that year, the world population was 7 billion. And when you move to 2050, by then the world population will become 10 billion. And each one of these human beings have a dream. They want to have food, water, energy, transportation, housing, employment, health facilities. This is the dream of every individual of these billions of these people. And to address this, there have been several developments that have taken place, especially during the last few decades. Tremendous developments have taken place in areas such as nanotechnology, including the semiconductor technology, biotechnology, information technology, cognitive sciences. Today we have better knowledge systems, better ways of gathering data, analyzing data, building theoretical models to understand this linear, non-linear behavior of the world that we are living in. We have better monitoring systems, satellites, imaging systems, sensors. You can in real time monitor with few feet of resolution on Earth. You have better communication systems. This entire internet, it's not owned by anybody. It's an open, transparent system. We have better management systems. Using the data that we are collecting, we can manage our transport systems. We can study the weather patterns. We can manage our agricultural processes using the data. But in spite of all these things, today the entire humanity is faced with one big question in front of us. That question is, how do we realize the future that we want for all of us? And what is that future? That future is something which should be sustainable, healthy, secure, and peaceful. Why is that we are struggling to find an answer to this in spite of so many developments that are taking place? Experts say that there are certain critical problems we need to address if we want to address the concerns that we have as a human society today. One, as I mentioned, the population growth. And then the increasing demands for clean energy, food, water, healthcare. And then you have the climate change staring at all of us. Now, the important thing that comes in all our deliberations is sustainability. So how do you achieve sustainability? The opportunity to realize sustainability is decided by a very complex interaction among four things. And I want to present this in front of you. And I want to connect why reforming higher education, the efforts that all of you are putting, we'll find a context. One of the critical problems, as I mentioned in the beginning, the complex interaction among the issues that we have, the population growth and the increasing human needs, societal and cultural values, human-built environment, such as the big cities that we are building, and then the earth system boundaries. Mother Earth has certain limits. Beyond those limits, Mother Earth will not be able to cope up with. Now there is a complex interaction among all these parameters. And unless we understand and address this, we will not be able to achieve that sustainability, security, peace, and health for everybody on earth. Let me first look at the earth boundary, earth system boundaries, how we are breaking it. Today, if you look at the carbon dioxide, ppm by volume, we should not cross 353 ppm by volume, the atmospheric CO2. But we have already crossed well beyond that. We cannot have biodiversity loss. 10 species per million per year. Already hundreds of species are becoming extinct. The amount of nitrogen that we extract from atmosphere for human consumption, for human use, because life on earth is sustained by the presence of nitrogen. How many millions of tons per year can we extract? Not more than 35 millions of tons, but we are extracting much more than that. Somebody asked me, what happens if we have too much of nitrogen? Well, the unused nitrogen, plants have certain limits up to which they can absorb nitrogen. The unused nitrogen will get into water bodies, soil, and it will lead to the growth of toxic algae. And this algae absorbs the oxygen for miles and miles within the water, and it will deplete of any living beings there. So there are many, many detrimental effects when we cross the earth system boundaries. Now let me look at the population growth. In olden days, when the child mortality rate was very high, the couples had to produce more babies. If you produce 10 babies, maybe one will survive, grow and become an adult, and produce more babies so that the humanity continues. But with technological advances, with medical science advances, the child mortality rate has come down. We are producing more babies now, and they are surviving. In addition to this, another interesting thing has happened. Our lifespan also has increased. We live longer now. So the entire age structure is moving towards the elderly age structure. And that's the biggest challenge that we have today in the world. So what will happen if more people are elderly and there are less younger people in the society? Your economic systems will get affected. The older people have to be taken care of, and they are unemployable because they do not have the required skills. So this is going to put a huge pressure on the society. The other problem that we have is the huge demand for clean energy. How do we make sure that there is abundant, low-cost, carbon-neutral energy available to everybody? To produce energy, you also require water. You, of course, can use other means of generating electricity, but one of the commonly used approach is hydroelectric hydrothermal electric processes. You require water. Today, our dependency on the fossil fuels is the highest at any time in the history of humankind. We use liquid fossil fuels, petroleum, diesel, and then the solid fossil fuels such as coal, and then the gas, natural gas. Of course, now we are looking at the renewable energy resources such as the solar power and wind energy, and even the biofuels. But unfortunately, our requirements of energy are growing and growing. By 2035, we must produce nearly 800 quadrillion BTUs of energy. 1 quadrillion is 10 to the power of 15. So how are we going to produce this energy? Of course, our increased usage of solar energy will come to our rescue to some extent. Even then, to produce solar energy, you require solar panels. You require silicon. You require very critical metals such as lithium, gallium, titanium. You require rare earth metals. Where are we going to get these metals, these minerals? This is a challenge that we have, especially for a country like ours. If you use wind power, solar energy, you of course have to store this energy. So you need to develop efficient battery technologies. And after you use the batteries, after a few years, where will you throw these batteries? That is going to become another environmental challenge for all of us. Because even today, we do not have a good, efficient method of recycling the batteries because they are so toxic. Now let us look at water. India has only 4% of the global fresh water. And out of that, nearly 80% is used for agricultural purposes. Nearly 50% of the world now lives in water-stressed regions. So how are we going to address this problem? Even if you have water, to transport water you require energy. To clean water you require energy. So energy and water, they are interlinked with each other. And nearly 90% of the water used by humans, it comes back as wastewater. And we still do not have good ways of recycling this water so that it can be reused. The other challenge that all of us will face in this bigger picture, and therefore we need to find a context why we are trying to transform our higher education, is the agriculture. Today, majority of the farmers are small landowners. I come from a village. These farmers have 1 acre and 2 acre land. And it becomes highly economically unviable for them to lead a life based on those small patches of land. And our farmers are also dependent on very few crops such as sugarcane, wheat, rice. One famine comes, if these crops go away, our farmers will be in great trouble. So how do we ensure that our farmers diversify their farming activities by growing different kinds of crops? How do we ensure that using the satellite data that we have, we develop precision agricultural methods? Using data, you can calculate what is the input that is going per acre of land, what is the output that is coming out, and fine-tune the agricultural processes to increase the yield. So there is a greater need to develop these precision agricultural techniques. How do we ensure that our farmers are taken away from the modern agricultural techniques where we are too much dependent on pesticides and fertilizers? These are challenges that we have. The other challenge that we have is the health and wellness. Because our lifestyles are changing, the lifestyle related health issues are becoming a major challenge for all of us. Lesser physical activity, more consumption of processed food, more salt, sugar and fatty food, less fiber in our food. All these are leading to a major public health challenge for all of us. Recently, a professor, a researcher in Delhi, carried out a study on school kids. And he found that nearly 1/3 of the school kids have fatty liver problem. Liver is such an important organism in our organ, in our body. Nearly 1/3 of people in certain countries, they are highly obese. Even if you look at the construction of our buildings today, when you enter a big building, you really have to search for the staircase. The first thing that will be prominently visible to you is the lift. On the other hand, you should be using the staircase so that you are physically active. And mental wellness is another major problem. Increasing stress levels at home, at school, at college, at workplace. Reduced cordial personal interpersonal relations. Now this is also becoming a major problem. Although we have so many antibiotics, vaccines, drugs, and advanced surgical techniques, today accessibility to healthcare systems is still a major problem for us because 70% of our Indians live in rural areas. They experience multidimensional poverty. They have a house to live, they have food to eat, but they do not have access to good quality education. They do not have access to good quality healthcare system and so on. So this multidimensional poverty is becoming another major problem. And the urbanization is creating another huge issue. We are building mega cities and it puts enormous pressure on us in waste management, for example, or in providing electricity. So how are we going to address this? And then we have this all-encompassing challenge of the climate change. Today, that is why we cannot work in isolation, because as a global community, we are all interlinked. The national boundaries may exist. There may be different kinds of governmental systems which govern these regions, bounded by the national boundaries. But we are all interconnected. Our financial systems are interconnected. Our trade systems are interconnected. Our climate is interconnected. So that's the reason why in India, if you find solution to some of the problems that I have presented to you, it can become a solution for the rest of the world also. And that's how we can become a leader in the world, by addressing not only our problems, but these interconnected challenges
that the entire human society is facing.
The other problem that we have is the societal values. Today, there is so much of competition in our economic system across the globe. that our career becomes the top priority. Young couples, therefore, they postpone having kids because their career becomes important. I was visiting Korea some time ago, and when I was going around in the markets, I saw couples moving around with small babies, but they are too old. They are not very young couple. So this is a challenge for us. How do we ensure that there is inclusive development? And people say that we must work towards cooperative economy, where we cooperate with each other, we help each other, we think in such a way that we are working for a collective goal as a society. And that's the reason why we need to inculcate these human values at an individual level and also at a societal level. Friends, therefore, there is a need for the convergence of knowledge, technology, and values. We cannot focus on any one of them. You are all knowledge creators. In universities, you are doing a lot of research, creating new knowledge, and you are also passing on this knowledge from generation to generation. And some of these people who acquire this knowledge, they venture out and develop new technologies. And these new technologies diffuse in the society. And our lives increasingly will get controlled by technological devices, technological applications. Therefore, it will change the way we interact with each other. And therefore, our societal values also will be affected. That is why we need to look at this entire picture and see how this complicated interaction between knowledge, technology, and values will ultimately decide what kind of future that we will have. As educational institutions, as leaders of educational institutions, you play an enormous role in deciding where our country will be moving ahead. So when I say this, as educational leaders, you play an important role. I was reading a few days ago about a conversation between Swami Vivekananda and a British general. In 1857, our soldiers revolted against the British. We call it First War of Independence. But the British suppressed that revolution. So Swami Vivekananda asked this British general, see, our Sepoys were well trained, they were brave, they were well armed, but still, why did they lose? The British general said, it is because the leaders of these soldiers, they stood at a safe place and they started telling the soldiers, go ahead and fight. Because they didn't want to take the risk. And that is why we failed. My dear friends, as leaders of educational institutions, you should be in the forefront leading the faculty members and the students. If you stand at a safe place, if you are unwilling to take risks, then the kind of change that we are dreaming to have in our educational institutions, it will not happen. So, what will you do then? It is not only mentally preparing yourself to take risks, we also have to set our home right. And that's the reason why UGC brought out an excellent document. And this is called the Guidelines for institutional development plan. Just a month ago, we had a one-day workshop on institutional development plan where we invited about 220 vice-chancellors from across the country. I'm sure few of you also might have attended that conference. Because of the venue limitations, we called only so many, but we will have more interactions with you. Friends, these guidelines for IDP is something that you need to very critically deliberate. At different levels of leadership in your universities, deans, heads of departments, and then it should reach out to the students also. And prepare an IDP which is relevant, which meets the objectives for which your university has been set up, in order to have strategic plan for academic programs, for infrastructure, for research initiatives, for student services, and the community engagement. Your IDP should be unique to your institution so that it can foster innovation, it can enhance competitiveness, and ensure sustainable development. Just as I mentioned during the bigger picture that I drew, your IDP should also align your objectives, the objectives of your institution, to the broader societal aspirations, societal needs. Let me also tell you that if you have designed a good IDP and if you implement, it can enhance the reputation and prestige of your university. Nowadays, many funding agencies, they look at various performance metrics and the outcomes. You can actually enhance this by having a good IDP. Friends, I would like to tell you one important thing about this IDP. That is, when you implement IDP in your university, it should ensure that it addresses the issues related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. The IDP should help in making your university campus a welcoming and supportive environment. It will help you in adjusting, adapting to the changing circumstances. And let me tell you, there are many things that are changing today, especially our young people. Our young people are very aspirational. They are willing to take risks. You know, today we have more than 125 startup companies in our country. And what is very interesting is that majority of these startup companies are coming from tier 2, tier 3 towns and cities, not from these so-called elite institutions or big cities. And that is a clear indication that our young people are ready. But are we ready? Are we changing enough? We need to ponder on these things during these 2 days of deliberations that you are going to have. One of the things that I'm sure you will deliberate is how do you make sure that you make your institutions centers of excellence in terms of producing high quality research? How do you ensure that your students become innovative and they will take up entrepreneurship? Well, there are few things that we must do as educational institutions. Whenever I meet colleagues like you, I have been emphasizing on providing an ecosystem in our educational systems which will help our students to cross over these artificially built disciplinary boundaries. The first thing that you can do is right at the undergraduate level, when students are admitted, why do you want to see in which subjects they passed in 12th class? Irrespective of in which disciplines they passed out of the school, if they show their competency in a particular discipline by clearing an entrance exam at a national level or at your university level, why can't you admit that student in a completely, totally different discipline? It is in your hands. You don't require any additional infrastructure, any additional funds for doing this. In your advertisements, you can showcase this, that any student, irrespective of their discipline, they can join in any discipline in their undergraduate program. Do you know that in our undergraduate and postgraduate curriculum frameworks that we have designed and announced, an undergraduate student, irrespective of in which discipline they passed out, they can join in a discipline of their choice in the postgraduate program. In UGC NET now, student from any discipline can write any discipline in UGC NET so that they can do a PhD in a discipline of their choice. These are mechanisms for breaking the disciplinary boundaries, and you must play a very, very critical role here. Friends, I want to bring to your notice a very important thing that we are doing. Today, out of 4.3 crore students that we have, nearly 79% of the students do undergraduate programs. Only 11% of the students go for postgraduate, and even smaller amount, maybe 1%, fraction of 1% go for PhD. Now, out of these 79% of the undergraduate students, majority of them do BA, BSc, BCom. What is their future after they do BA, BSc, BCom? This is a major challenge that we have. The other challenge that we have is, in school system we have 26 crore students, and in higher education we have 4.3 crore students. That means many students who are coming out of the schools, they are not even coming to the higher education institutions. They are going back to their villages. They are going back to their parents. How do you address this issue? This is a challenge as education is in front of us. One of the things that we are doing is integrating skill education as part of the regular undergraduate programs. We have recently launched the SWAYAM Plus program. UGC and NCVET is working with many organizations in the area of finance, banking, logistic management, life sciences skill sector, media and entertainment skill sector, and there are many such areas. Hotel management, travel management, wealth management, risk management. There are many areas where we can bring in these skill-based courses. So through SWAYAM Plus, we are going to make these courses available to the students. And my request to all of you is, look at the undergraduate curriculum framework, redesign your undergraduate programs so that the students can focus both on their academic interests and also the career interests. Let's say I am doing BA History, I will do half of my program credits. In a 4-year program, it is 80 credits. I do history, but the remaining 80 credits, I may do courses in banking and financing, or in auditing, or in accounting, or in data management, so that my employment opportunities will increase. We are also working on guidelines for introducing apprenticeship integrated undergraduate programs. If there is a 4-year undergraduate program, you can sign an MOU with a local industry. This industry may be in the need of skilled people, because when your students pass out, their skills do not match with the skills of the industry. You can sign an MOU. Let's say they require 200 students, 200 young people in having certain skills. You can design this apprenticeship program so that 2 years they go and learn on the floor in the industry.
And the remaining 2 years they will study in the industry, and the remaining 2 years they study in the college or the university. These two programs where skills are going to be integrated, or it will become apprenticeship embedded degree programs which will be launched soon by many of you. This is going to change the entire scenario. Our young people will become more and more employable with these kind of new programs. So some vice chancellors, they asked me, what if half of the credits are taken by the students offered by the industry? What will happen to the teaching load of our teachers? They will have lesser teaching load. Do you know that last year we have permitted the universities which are offering the online programs to start their academic sessions 2 times in a year, like the West does. In July, you can start the academic sessions. You can also start the academic session in January to December. And when we launched this, to our surprise, we found that 5 lakh additional students registered in the online programs. So UGC is also working. Soon we will communicate to all of you that as universities, in your physical programs also, you can have 2 academic sessions. July academic session to June, or you can have January academic session to December. So if half of your students are taking these skill courses in industry or elsewhere, if you think that your teachers do not have enough load, teaching load, they can run the evening programs and you can have a second academic session. Or you can ask your teachers to do more research. Friends, I would like to stop here. I have taken about 40 minutes. There are many things that are coming, and all of you had to be in the running mode, not in the walking mode. If you want to see perceptible change on the ground. See, education is one area where you cannot see the change overnight. But people are restless. They are asking, we have announced the NEP 2020 4 years ago. Where are the changes? So it is our responsibility to stand up and ensure that these rapid changes are implemented in our educational systems. And let me tell you, I have met many of you on several occasions. UGC will wholeheartedly work with all of you to make sure that many of these reforms are implemented in our university system. And I'm very happy because I interact with you and I get to know the kind of things that you are doing in your universities. I'm very happy that you are on the right path and you are implementing many things in our university system, and congratulations to you. So with those comments, I would like to thank once more all of you for your patient hearing, and I would like to conclude here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We now welcome the Honorable Governor Chancellor to deliver the inaugural address.
Professor Jagdish Kumar, Chairman, UGC, and the Chief Guest, eminent leaders of higher education, very warm greetings to all of you. It is the third such conclave of leaders of universities, state, central, private, that we are hosting in Tamil Nadu. When I came in 2021, later part of it, and as a chancellor, when I started looking at the working of our universities, I was disappointed that our universities were mostly working in isolation. I'm talking about state universities largely. Each university was struggling with its problem. It was setting its standards. And there was a strange lack of communication among these institutions. And that is how the idea of this conclave, that we must have at least once in a year a get-together of all the eminent leaders of higher education, live together, deliberate on issues, exchange your thoughts, learn from each other, because this is how knowledge prospers, we all prosper. I am personally thankful to Professor Jagdish Kumar for his presence and sharing his valuable thoughts, the ideas. In fact, he said he was present twice on 2 occasions. But I think my audience will tell you were present all the 3 times. 2 physically, once you were virtually present. You have been taking interest, coming all the way, interacting with our Vice-Chancellors, being the guardian of standards in the higher education, and being the driver of many of the significant transformations that are happening in our higher education ecosystem. Your presence has been immensely helpful. Friends, this 2 days conclave, the core thrust is on research excellence, innovation, and entrepreneurship. We have eminent experts to share their knowledge, their ideas. We have Professor Partha Chakravarti, a former director of IIT Kharagpur and a leading expert. He will be sharing with all of us about research excellence and future of artificial intelligence, an area which we all talk about with a lot of hope and apprehensions, and the area in which there has been so much of revolutionary transformations happening at a speed and a scale unimaginable. It will be good to hear him. We have for startup, for innovation and entrepreneurship, Shruti Kannanji from Cisco, who has been advisor to various initiatives of the Government of India, the Startup in India and others. She will be sharing with us, which will be very, very valuable to us. We also have Dr. Charan, who would be telling us about universal human values. Plus, we'll have some other speakers. The context has been set in by the chairman UGC. He has touched on all the frontiers, the areas where we need to work, which are very, very pressing need of the hour. I'm sure you would be taking note of it and aligning your university initiative accordingly. Friends, you know, our national education policy, which has been brought out after a lot of churning involving countless number of stakeholders from different disciplines, not only from the academia, from the industry, from the society, from thought leaders from various domains. This is our future. You know, our country today is at the cusp of transformation. Challenges which are facing the world, they are facing us as well. And they are hurting us in a very major way. We have a problem at almost every dimension. A country which, at the time of independence, despite all the exploitation by the colonial powers, we were the 6th largest economy in the world. In the subsequent over 6 decades, we were reduced to 11th economy. Now, fortunately, with the new initiatives coming, we have become the 5th largest, and we are very hopeful that in the next few years we will be the 3rd. We have lost a lot of time. We have lost a lot of time because we have been following the education system which was largely bequeathed to us by the colonial rulers. Learning the borrowed knowledge. Giving those knowledge to our students, the students with the degrees, they come out and start begging for jobs. Now, if we all say that basic purpose of education is empowerment, a student at whichever stage comes out with a certificate, with a degree, should come out with a confidence to live with dignity. Somehow we missed it and we continued following that tradition. And we reached where we reached. The countries which were far behind, they left us far behind. Now, if we continue like this, we have no future. While we think about the world, which we must think, which we have started thinking because we are like to build ourselves, we have to think about ourselves. So we have to think about ourselves, our country, for the good of the world. We know for a long time, until colonization, India was the largest economy in the world. Not for 100 years, not for 200 years, for over 1800 years of recorded history. We were the largest economy in the world primarily because we were innovative. We were enterprising. Our education system was not the system of rote learning. We all know that in India, we don't have much of gold mines. But India had the largest gold reserve in the world. How? It was because India, the world was the market for Indian products. Be it iron, be it textile, be it chemicals, be it many, many things. Right from Central Asia, Roman Empire, in the west to China in the east. They were India's market. We were competitive. It was not that the others were not trying, but we were competitive. We were ahead of others. So our products were valued. It is a recorded history that the iron that India produced was the best. And in the old historical literature, the iron was called, Indian iron was called Jawab-e-Hind. When the soldiers, when the armies, they looked for the weapons, the metals, the irons that they used, or the Indian iron was the best, was the strongest. We kept improving, innovating. This spirit of innovation, a spirit of research, it was decimated during the colonial period. We have to come out of it. You know, in Bharatiya knowledge system, knowledge is not a static, it is a dynamic. And that is how the thrust has been always on creating new and new knowledge. I am tempted to recall Tiruvalluvar. At the very beginning of the Kalvi section, what does he say? He says, Kark kasdark karpavai katrapin nirak adarkutaga. Kark kasdark karpavai. Learn hard and hard. Break frontiers, create new knowledge. Create new knowledge. And Katrapin, having acquired that, Nirak Adarkatak. Live by that. Make that knowledge part of your living. Make that knowledge improve your life. Make you a better human being. It should be able to alleviate or address the challenges of life. That is technology. You know that Tiruvalluvar believed in celebration of life. He was not the one who could have ever advocated idle knowledge, knowledge for the sake of knowledge. No. Being the one who celebrated life, his message was to create new and new technology to make our life better. And we know that civilization has been, the civilizational journey of humankind has been shaped, its architecture has been shaped by technology. Right from the wheels, to the steam engine, to the internal combustible engine, to telephone, to all these, to the IT, to the digital, and now we are in artificial intelligence. All these have a transformative effect on the whole civilization. Now, in this era, it is important for us that we change over from the old mode of teaching for the sake of teaching, passing on a borrowed knowledge. In fact, our NEP 2020, the essence, the core inspiring principle has been this Kural, which has been the basis of our Bharatiya Gyan Paddhati, our Indian knowledge system, a dynamic, ever evolutionary, ever transformative education system. Our chairman UGC has given you a lot of food for thought. Other speakers also will be sharing their ideas. He talked about institutional development plan. We have a session on that. Because when your institution, you have a plan, the plan cannot be for 5 years, for 10 years. It has to be a long term. For long we have been thinking on a short term, 5 year, 10 year. It can be a milestone, it cannot be a vision. Vision cannot be for 5 years. Vision cannot be for 10 years. Vision has to be for a longer period. So, how you develop your institution? That's very important. And how? To ensure that the students, our younger students, those who come out of universities, colleges, they come out equipped with the knowledge, the skill, and the confidence with which they live a life of dignity. They're able to solve the problems of theirs and as well as problems of the larger humanity. That's very important. And I'm sure in the next 2 days, today and tomorrow, you will all be sharing your thoughts, exchanging in the session, at the margin of it. The idea of keeping it for 2 days is essentially to give you some time, though the programs have been back to back, but still, you are all based here. You should be able to exchange your thoughts and ideas, meet each other, and see that the spirit of this conclave to bring together a cooperative ecosystem of higher education where you exchange your ideas, your thoughts, how you have been solving problems, what are you doing, each institution has something unique, some strong point. Each will benefit from the other. You continue with this even beyond. You don't necessarily have to wait for the next. We should not wait for the next annual conference. In any case, we will have the annual conference. But in between, there should be your own meeting at a smaller level and continue with this spirit of building a new higher education system for a new India. That should be our goal. I wish all of you the very best. Thank you very much once again. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. We thank the Honorable Governor Chancellor for inaugurating the 2-day conference. We thank our Chief Guest of the Day, Professor Jagdish M. Kumar. Ladies and gentlemen, we request all of you to rise for the national Dear dignitaries, there will be a group photo session.